Father Leo is a dynamic and witty, provocative and insightful speaker. He is truly a priest cut from a different cloth. You don't have to get spiritual, he says. We are born spiritual. But sometimes the messages and experiences of our lives disconnect us from our spiritual power. His focus is on helping people reconnect the spiritual link between body, mind, and emotions that empower a mature partnership or co-creatorship with God. Born in England, Father Leo is a recovering alcoholic and a certified addictions and eating disorders counselor. He is one of the first clergymen to identify and treat religious addiction and abuse. In his work as both a priest and an addictions consultant, he teaches treatment programs in churches how to identify and begin to heal wounded spirituality. Father Leo is the program consultant for Bellwood Health Services in Toronto, Canada, and the author of several books, including his latest, The Wisdom of Letting Go. Here's Father Leo Booth.
Thanks, Jim. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Leo, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Leo.
It's a real pleasure for me to be here in Albany, in New York. As you know, I get a chance to travel in many parts of the world, and I'm from the UK, but I have traveled to such places that you'd never believe. Spoken in many parts of the world. I've spoken in Thailand, which is Buddhist. I've spoken in Israel, which is Jewish. I've spoken in India more than once, which is Hindu. It's the same program. It's the same approach. And so regardless of our particular backgrounds, I want you to know that what I want to be presenting in the wisdom of letting go is spirituality. And I'll tell you in a nutshell what it is. Some of you have got paper, some of you are writing stuff down. I'll tell you what spirituality is. Spirituality is being a positive and creative person. Will you say that with me? Spirituality is being a... Now, you're sounding decidedly Episcopalian. Now, you've got to put a little bit more enthusiasm into this, you know. Okay, let's try it again. Spirituality is being a... That's right. Positive and creative in the way that you approach life. The spiritual awakening that is promised in the 12th step is actually that you suddenly realize that instead of being somebody who cannot make choices, now you're going to make choices. Instead of having your life unmanageable, now you're going to start to manage your life a day at a time. You're going to pay your bills. When you go on vacation, you're going to know where you went. Sometimes you're even going to know who you went with. I was in Los Angeles recently, and I was talking at a school, and I said to what's your first name again? Ali. I said, Ali. I said to the person in the school, I said, did you know that Christopher Columbus was alcoholic? And Ali, most of the people in the school, they didn't know. Ali, did you know? Think about it, Ali. Work with me here. Ali, think about it. When he set off, he didn't know where he was going. When he got there, he didn't know where he was. When he'd got back, he didn't know where he'd been. And it was all paid for by a woman. Just for you to know, I've had a wonderful year. This year, I celebrated 22 years of recovery. This year, I became a citizen of the United States. and I had a colonoscopy. Oh, no, I tell you, whoa, tell you, don't worry about it. Tell you, I just loved every minute. The doctor turned around to me, the doctor said, usually with a colonoscopy, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is they don't find anything. The bad news is you like it. By the way, some of you know in the introduction, I was educated in England, just for you to know, at some of the good schools in England. Some of you know Canterbury and Oxford. What you may not know, because the majority of you here are Roman Catholic, is that I was raised Roman Catholic and I was with the Jesuits in England. That you don't know. Like a lot of people who were with the Jesuits at the time, as a student, I was a student with the Jesuits for 4 years. The issue of Humanae Vitae came up in a very strong way in Europe. That was in 1969. Along with many mainline Jesuits and young Jesuit students, I elected then to make my decision to leave and join the religion of my mother, which is the Anglican, which is the Church of England, which is Episcopal. The only reason I say that is I know where most of you are coming from. And that's probably why I was able years ago, 5, 6 years ago, to write a book that became a bestseller in the United States, and that was called When God Becomes a Drug, which was about religious abuse. I'm surprised you got a copy there, yes. John Bradshaw did a lot of talks. Some of you who have been in recovery for a while know John Bradshaw did a wonderful series of talks on shame. Believe you me, shame can come from many places. You can have shame created by your family. There's shame created by sexual abuse. There's a shame of poverty. You're never going to understand race relations unless you understand the shame that is created around some races and the prejudice around people of color or a different culture. There's many roads that shame takes. And what I wanted to do was address something that I'd seen in my own life, and that is, in the name of God, in the name of Jesus, some people are shamed. Sometimes people are not given a God of love, they're given a God of judgment. Sometimes people are not given a God of choice, but they're given a God of, if you like, discipline and obedience. But ladies and gentlemen, God has given you and God has given me a gift. It is the gift to think. We admitted. Who admitted? We did. God doesn't admit. We do. Came to believe. Who came to believe? I came to believe. Made a decision. Who made a decision? I made a decision. You will find as you go through this program that this program has less to do with God but an awful lot to do with you. And like with any talk that you give, you'll get exactly what you want. In other words, if you want to have a talk tonight on the wisdom of letting go that is funny, it'll be, I'm sure, funny. Because I'm funny. But if you also want to think to yourself, how is this lecture going to help me? Right at the very beginning. Right at the very beginning, be open. Be open to the idea of what Spirit will lead you to see, and that is, what do you need to let go of? Now, obviously, for an alcoholic who's still drinking, they need to let go of the alcohol. If you're a sex addict, you need to let go of the behavior. If you have an obsession around food, which is food addiction, you need to let go of the power of food in your life. And so it goes on. Some of you have experienced a divorce. And many years after this divorce, there is a sense in which the pain and the memories have still stuck with you and are still poisoning your life. So you're not free to be enjoying your life. Some of you may have been separated, or you're in a relationship that just simply is not working out. Why do I say this right at the beginning? There's many aspects of letting go. All I can tell you is what I've said to people for many years. Until, if you really want to taste success, you must be prepared to let go of something. In order for you to be free and to be able to move through recovery and through your life, you must be willing to let some things go. And it's very, very, very powerful when you do that. Why did I write this book? Some of you, you'll hear me talk about it. The wisdom of letting go, which this lecture is based on. These words came from my mother. 22 years ago, in a little kitchen in England, my mother, over a kitchen table, looked at me and said, "Leo, I love you enough to let you go." For years she had enabled me, protected me, made excuses for me, and I was dying. Maybe some of you have a son or a daughter. Maybe some of you have a grandchild. Maybe some of you have a friend. But you know, if they really are going to get well, you have to be willing to let go. And you let go not because you don't care. You let go because you do. Let go is not about the fact that because it's the hardest thing in the world. And any of you who are alcoholics know that if you'd been drinking for 6 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, for you to let go of that alcohol that had been in your mind, your friend for all those years, is hard. And it's the same for a drug addict, and it's the same for a cocaine addict, and so it goes on. What I'm sharing with you tonight is, right at the top of the lecture, the willingness to let go. And I can't do that for you. Only you can do that. And of course, how are you ever going to let go unless you first of all know what it is that you need to let go of? Again, that's not my responsibility, that's yours. Sometimes people who are very wealthy are very rich people. They think that money or wealth is going to bring them happiness. They need to let go. Some people are so attached to their race that they become prejudiced towards others, that their race is the only race. Their color is the only color. You need to let go. Letting go is not Christian. Letting go is Christian and more. You will find the concept of letting go at the basis of Buddhism, at the basis of Zen, at the basis of Hinduism, and at the basis of Islam and Judaism. And of course, it is in the teachings of Jesus. Lay down. Lay down your bed and follow me. These are the principles. Nice to see you. Just thought I'd give you, discreetly came in. Very nice. Some of you know that I'm from England. Yes, and I'll tell you something now. I may as well tell you now. I am not the only Englishman who had an alcohol problem. I don't know whether many of you know we had a prime minister. A prime minister. His name was Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill, truly, it's true. Some of you are avid readers of history. Winston Churchill drank about a bottle of brandy a day. That was just the brandy. It's a lovely story that Winston Churchill was having dinner with Lady Astor. And Lady Astor turned to Winston Churchill and said, Winnie, you're drunk. And Winston Churchill, in his inimitable way, said, Madam, you are ugly. But I shall wake up sober in the morning. She was quick to say to him, she says, Winnie, if I was your wife, I'd put poison in your soup. Madam, if I was your husband, I'd drink it. Why do I say this to you? Why do I say this to you on a Friday night? I say this to you because truly, if you want to deal with addiction, and many of you are dealing with it on a daily basis, addiction is cunning, baffling, and powerful, and it's patient. And I'll tell you what it does. It makes you tired. Drugs make you tired. Some of you have realized, be you 5 years sober, you're making more money than you ever did. You've got more than one job. Maybe you've got another job if you want to take it. You've got more energy than you know what to do with. You're doing backflips. Why? Because you're not drinking. Some of you are getting up 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning. Some of you are running, exercising. It's called the positive and creative life. And I realize some of you are not. But my point with it is this. As soon as you stop drinking as a drug is a depressant. Just know that. That's you go down. All that depressant means, not talking now medically, talking now as a wordsmith, all that depressant means is that you go down. Obviously then recovery is going up. Now if in your life of recovery things are not changing, maybe you need to look at that. Maybe you need to look at that because in the promises it's clear things will get better. Not perfect, but better. I wrote this. I'm going to read something from it. I wrote this. It's a daily meditation and it's called Say Yes to Life. Say it with me. Say yes. Come on now. Say it with me. I have this idea that first thing in the morning you'll be sitting on your toilet and I'll be sitting on my toilet and just for a moment we'll be connected. Those of you who've got the book, you can follow it. Of course, I'm going to read for today. Today is the 8th of June. Never mind. I'm so glad you came, Father. It's June the 9th, all day. Tomorrow is June the 10th, just in case any of you forget. In the Say Yes to Life, I take the ideas of some of the greatest philosophers and artists. By the way, I have a great soft spot for the artists of this world. If you are an artist, I salute you. Artists are the writers and the poets. Artists are the actors. Artists are the people who take this world and always they are creating. That's what makes you an artist. There is the restlessness of every artist, and a spiritual person is to be an artist in life. So unlike a lot of daily meditations book, I do not just quote from the scriptures. I quote from some of the great writers in America, in England, and throughout the world. Here is a Jewish writer. His name is Israel Zangwill. And it's based on June the 9th ideals. And of course, the Al-Anon Foundation has ideals. Every dogma, he says, every dogma has its day. But ideals are eternal. This is what I wrote. For too long I lived in a box of religious rules and dogma. Life had to be definable. Everything needed to be structured. Then, at some time in my life, the answers didn't seem to work anymore. It seemed as if the world had moved on from where I was. I realized that life had to be lived, not talked about. And I discovered that spirituality is reality. It's okay to benefit from a tradition or a dogma, but you don't live in it. We all need to move on. I was not disloyal or a traitor because I changed my mind. God and truth live in a changing world. And if we are to grow, our perception of ourselves and life around us must also change. Today I can accept this. And here's the prayer. Give me the willingness to change in my life. Maybe some of us would like to say that together. Give me the willingness to change in my life. Come on now. Give me the willingness to change in my life. The reason we have a little mouse running around a house is because the mouse learnt to change. The dinosaur is no more. The power of the mouse was nothing against the dinosaur, except the dinosaur could not change. That little mouse, little Mickey, he had the ability to change. I would submit to you, Alcoholics Anonymous birthed Narcotics Anonymous, it birthed Overeaters Anonymous, it birthed Gamblers Anonymous, it birthed Sexual Addictions Anonymous, it birthed codependency. There is nothing that codependency is saying that Al-Anon did not know for many years. Gahil Gibran, who many of you have read with great affection, said it also, although he'd never read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Gibran said, we need space in our togetherness. We need space. And if you live in a relationship where you cling and you suffocate each other because you are needy, I promise you, you will lose. But if you live in a relationship where you can have space and you can cherish the achievements of the other, then you will dance together all your lives right into eternity. The choice is yours. I mentioned Al-Anon. Yes, I mentioned Al-Anon. Is anybody from Al-Anon here? Don't be scared. You never used to be. It's a lovely story. It's a lovely story. I tell you this story. You might like this. There are very few stories told about Al-Anon. But here's a story about Al-Anon. An Al-Anon. And she has 7 years. How many years does she have? 7. How many? 7. But she marries badly. She marries an old-fashioned man. And on their wedding night, they go to the bedroom. And the man, he takes off his trousers and he throws his trousers in the middle of the bedroom. He says, "Wife, get into those trousers." She says, "I can't get into those trousers." He says, "No. Don't forget who wears the trousers in this marriage." But she has how many years in Al-Anon? How many? She does no more. She throws her panties in the middle of the bedroom. She says, "Husband, get into those panties." He says, "I can't get into those panties." She says, "No, and you won't until you change your attitude." Now, some of you may be thinking, what has panties to do with recovery? Everything. Can you turn the lights out at the front, please? What is the baggage? What is the baggage you are carrying in your life? Because I'll tell you something, believe you me, every one of us comes in carrying baggage. Catholic baggage is often that you're the only church and you're the only way. And by the way, Baptists have a similar approach. All you need to know is, don't think it doesn't affect you. What is your baggage with regards to race or sex or women? We all come with baggage. And don't ever be fool enough to think that your childhood has not affected you, and certainly don't think that your childhood is not playing out now. We all come with baggage. A young boy watches the way his father treats his mother. As a teenager, he sees if his daddy is having relations on the side. if his daddy is lying and he learns. Most of us who come from domestic violent homes will know that we ourselves grew up to abuse. Maybe not physically, but emotionally. Those of you who describe yourselves as shy, you would say, if you were interviewed, I'm shy. Let me suggest to you that you're not only shy, you're wounded. The reason you don't want to get out to the reason you don't want to read, the reason you don't want to get on the dance floor, you were not good enough. The man who is unable to be intimate, the man who is unable to cry, the man who is unable to reach out and show his feelings, ladies, that is a wounded man. And if you wish to remain in a relationship with a wounded man, of course that is your choice. But don't think that he is not bleeding inside. We come with baggage. Some of you are familiar with alcoholism. Let me tell you what alcoholism really is. And notice I say alcoholism, not alcohol. Alcohol is a drink. Alcoholism is a disease. You want to talk about alcoholism, don't come and talk to me about drinking. That's alcohol. I cannot tell you how many people get the two confused. If you're an alcoholic, you suffer from the disease of alcoholism. And the disease of alcoholism has affected you whether you are an alcoholic or whether you are a family member. And it creates so much. Not first stage, not my first 7 years, but after my first 7 years, I started to really look at my disease. Peel the onion. Say it with me. Peel the onion. Come on, say it with me. Peel the onion. Come on now. Peel the onion. And once you start to peel the onion, you won't just be talking about the fact that you got drunk and you threw up and you crashed the car. You'll start talking about what's right up there, and that is violence. Alcoholics hurt people. That's called violence. If you're the child of an alcoholic, all you need to write down is, I was hurt. Nobody gets out of the alcoholic family without being hurt. Whether you're the lost child, whether you're the scapegoat, whether you're the mascot, or whether you're the hero, you're still hurt. I want you tonight not just to look at this, but actually make a mental note, and if you've got pen and paper, write it down. What was your violence? Because your wife may never tell you. And your kids may never find the words to tell you. Because violence is not just physical. Violence can be mental and it can be emotional. If your wife or your child heard from you when you were drinking, get out! Get out of my face! If they hurt, even though you never laid your hand to them, you hurt them. And if it happened with any rapidity, believe you me, they were wounded. And your amends is to clean this up. If you're an alcoholic, first thing you need to do is that you did not stand up to the plate. You blamed others. You blamed others for what was going on in your life. And by the way, you may never have gone back to those people that you blamed. Who the hell? Winston Churchill, see? If I was your wife, I'd drink it. Now, it doesn't take much of a twist to realize how many alcoholics have turned round and said to their wives, my God, anybody who'd be married to you would drink. How do you think it makes the kids or the wife feel? And if it's and by the way, it can be turned on the husband too. And you know, even in recovery, we can avoid facing up, standing up, moving up to our plate. Alcoholism is cunning, baffling, and powerful because it lives in every fiber of our being. And by the way, it never goes away. Nobody ever says, I used to be an alcoholic. Not in this program. You live with it every day. Look at the third one. Letting loved ones down. And you know what? And it's a killer. Bill W. talked about it because he knew it. Bill W. knew it. It's called pride. The pride of the alcoholic will always kill the alcoholic. And you know it's pride, even to this day, that stops us going to the ones we loved and owning up. Clear the slate. You're a stronger human being when you walk through your pride. Do you realize that most sexual abuse, emotional abuse, unhealthy relationships, the most poverty, the most issues relating to a family that we call dysfunctional take place in the drug-addicted and alcoholic home? Of course they happen in other situations and families, but they predominantly affect the alcoholic. And the only reason why I mention now religious abuse is say you grew up in a family like I did, a European, Irish family, English family, where you never spoke about sex. You learned about it, you found out about it, but nobody in the family talked about it. Why do you ever think that somebody then is going to talk about their sexual abuse? If you grow up in a family that doesn't talk about it, how can you even start to talk about the abuse? Be it brother, be it uncle, be it cousin, or be it father or mother. The family issues. The family issues of shame and the family issues of guilt. How often do we look at somebody and we see that even 6 years into their recovery, they're still lost? 6 years into their recovery, 10 years into their recovery, they're still having problems with relationships. I tell you this, you will never have a healthy relationship unless you deal with your baggage. Denial is not the same as ignorance. Two different words, two different spellings. Ignorance is when you don't know. Denial is when you know, but you don't want to know. Not the same. You don't tell me that you don't know that you were a racist. You don't tell me that you don't know that you treat women badly, cheating on them, lying on them, using them. You don't tell me you don't know. You don't tell me you don't know that you have a sexual addiction or gambling. You don't tell me that you don't eat unhealthily at all the times an alcoholic might drink, with all the same behavior. Don't tell me you don't know. It's called denial. And procrastination is when we keep putting off what we know we need to do. Whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whether it's family, son or daughter, at some point we need to deal with this. And we keep saying, and we know, but we keep putting it off. Whatever makes you think it's all going to go away. There are some people who keep taking it to Jesus or to Our Lady. They'll light candles, they'll say novenas, excuse me. This is your stuff. Jesus never walks in your footsteps. He has too much respect. There's stuff that only you can do. Denial, or procrastination rather, is when you're either hoping it's all going to go away, or leaving it to someone else. Your stuff. You deal with it now. It's like the baggage you carry in your life. It's personal. It's personal. Sure. Codependency. I used to think codependency was some kind of joke. And then I started to treat at treatment centers and clinics all over the United States, women and men, girls and boys who had sacrificed their whole, can you hear me now? Sacrificed their whole lives for other people. Not healthy love, not space. Through guilt, either the guilt that the parents laid on them, guilt, something that just hooked you in, and you would spend whole life giving to other people. Oh, yes, you knew how to love others. It's just that you didn't know how to love yourself. Oh, yes, you knew how to give to others. You were a giver of this world. You just didn't give to yourself. And now, go look in the mirror and see how you look. No wonder you're stressed. No wonder you're drained. No wonder you really haven't got clothes to wear. Neither have you got money really to travel. you have not done a very good job of taking care of yourself. Now, I don't need to tell you. You go right back to Jesus. Love your neighbor. Come on now. Love your neighbor. How can you love your neighbor if you do not love yourself? Believe you me, ladies and gentlemen, your stuff. If you're a codependent, deal with it. Let go of this religious nonsense, because it's absolutely religious. Religious nonsense, that if you love other people, that's a blessing. But if you love yourself, that's selfish. If you give to others, that's wonderful. But if you give to yourself, that's selfish. That if you talk about what you've achieved, that's pride. Excuse me. Excuse me. Don't buy into that silliness. If you've got a song to sing, sing it. If you've got a story to be told, tell it. Because I have yet to meet a minister or a priest or a pope who isn't very good at telling the world what they've done. They're very good at doing that. And they're very good. Oh, I'm connected with the church. But I've never known a church turn around and say, when it's not in need, it lets the people know. Well, you make damn sure that if you have needs, you let the world know. Some people say to me, why do you refer to your books? I refer to my books because I wrote them. You got to be some kind of fool to write a book and not tell anybody, oh, I wrote a book, but put it under the table. If I remember rightly, Jesus says, what you have done, and put it on the table. Put the light there. Don't put your bushel under the bed. You've got a song to sing, then sing it. I tell you this much because if you don't, you may wake up one morning and it is too late. Some of you may be very good at influencing people. That's a gift from God. Gentleman with the moustache? What's his name? You're drifting. Remember Lawrence of Arabia? You're drifting, you're drifting. Codependent behavior, let's say it like it is. Losing yourself in a relationship. What is it? Come on now. Last time. That's not love, it's pathetic. Barry Manilow has made a fortune out of singing songs to codependents. He's a millionaire. That's how I say, oh, Barry Manilow. Let me tell you something. You cannot love unless you reclaim yourself. It's called self-esteem. It's called self-worth. Codependent behavior, there's two kinds. Passive, you know. Passive is when you're always giving to others. Watch out for the controlling person, the violent person, because they're just as needy. The person who beats you up emotionally, if not physically, and says, you'll never leave me, where the hell would you go? And then one day you come in and you say, I'm leaving. And I promise you this, the one who's leaving will probably live much longer than the one who said you'll never go. The sadness with the control freak is they can never tell you how they feel. The daddy that never told his son, went to his deathbed, never cried, went to his deathbed, but never told his son, never told his daughter how much he loved. There is an agony in human life if you cannot show your feelings. And you can tell the control person, because they even hug differently. This is how the controlling person hugs. Watch now. Exactly. The controlling person, right? It's like tapping you on the head. Okay? So when the controlling person does that to me, listen to what I do. Go on, do it. Woof, 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 woof. It's all you need to do. I'll tell you, when they start doing this, say, well, next minute you'll be doing this. And they start doing that. Woof, woof, woof. If you really want to do the dog pick, go over and go like this. Where does the codependent come from? Often comes from a dysfunctional home, where you don't talk, you don't trust, and you don't feel. Say it with me. Don't talk. Come on, say it now. Last time. When you say don't talk, it means you don't talk about what's important. Of course you say good morning, you say hello, isn't the sun shining, it's wet today. But you never talk about what you really need to talk about. Don't talk, you don't trust. How could you trust? If you came from a family which was chaos and violence and alcoholism and mess, 20 years of that, my God, you've almost been conditioned. How then could you ever trust? Don't talk, don't trust, and here's the biggie, you don't feel. And if you want to know the sadness of this, ladies and gentlemen, the sadness is real clear. If you don't feel, if you can't tell me how you feel, I can never love you. And if I can't tell you how you feel, I feel, and you can't tell me how you feel, we can never love each other. Because if I don't know how you feel, I cannot know you. Unless you tell me your fears, unless you can tell me your story, unless you can tell me what your joys are, or what your sadness is. And sometimes I see couples together, and sometimes I see married couples together, sometimes I see friends together, and there is a big separation between them. Some people maintain their marriage by going to AA meetings every night, but you never spend time alone with each other. One day you escaped your wife through alcohol, now you do it through AA. The purpose of recovery is to create relationships, not avoid them. The goal of recovery from codependency is very clear. It's personal spiritual power. For you to be able to say what you believe, for you to be able to reach out and touch the world the way you want it to be, for you to be able to dance through life. Of course, some people are going to disagree with you. So what? That's life. You can't get people together and not have disagreements, but you have the strength to say, this is what I believe. I have defended people of all cultures of this world because I grew up in a neighborhood where people thought I was Jewish. I was never Jewish. But I grew up in a neighborhood where predominantly Jewish people lived. And in 1960, the rise of the Nazi Party in 1960 in England, under Sir Oswald Mosley. And I was, 12 years old, 14 years of age. And men with not swastikas, but an armband came by. And I was with 3 Jewish friends going to school. And these men got out of a black car and they beat me up. And they beat up my friends. And I remember this guy must have been in his 30s and I was 12. And he hit me and he looked at me and he said, "Are you a Jew?" And I remember looking at him, and I'm no hero. And I said, "Yes." And then he hit me more. But somehow or other I became so identified with my friends I could do no other. Whenever you see racism, whenever you meet sexism, whenever you meet homophobia, you are meeting insecure people. No culture takes anything away from your culture. The fact that you are proud and you support and nurture women does not take anything away from your masculinity. The fact that you can hold hands with somebody who is a good and noble person, but maybe lesbian or gay, it takes nothing away from you. We are divided by people who find it easier to hate than they do to love. Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi died to bring the world together. We have this chance now. Codependency is a brutal and abusive form that keeps you less than who you were meant to be. It's time to rise up. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you would be kind enough, Jim, wherever you are, Jim, to put the lights on. I told the tape man that I would stop after 1 hour. I want to share something with you while I can, because otherwise it gets very confusing. I have brought for here, because it's recovery, I have brought, and by the way, there are not too many books. We have a workshop also tomorrow going on with as many, if not more people coming tomorrow, especially as you realize the foundation is underwriting all of this, which makes it very wonderful and affordable for everybody. But not only that, I can't believe it, that's why I looked, books that normally sell in the bookshops for $10 are now being sold here for $6. So I don't know how you could get a better deal than that. But I do want to say this to you. And that is, the wisdom of letting go incorporates the philosophy of what I have been talking about tonight and will continue to speak on tonight. It deals with divorce and separation. It deals with codependency, racism. It deals with sexism and homophobia. It deals with death. Some of us have not let go of the fact that our families or loved ones, somebody died. And we carry that with us. The book that talks about spirituality for 12-step people is, of course, the first book I ever wrote, and I wrote it for Health Communications. It's called Spirituality and Recovery. And it has my story of recovery in this book with the car crash in England 22 years ago. The Angel and the Frog is a beautiful spiritual story for people to tell themselves or their children. It touches recovery. It's about a frog called Cedric who was depressed. He was a depressed frog. He met an angel called Christine, and she showed him and his friends. There was a hedgehog called Muriel, and she was codependent. You meet a fox called Roger, who's a sex addict. He's a real fox. Okay? There's a beautiful story, a love story really, between two male cats, but unfortunately there's a lot of homophobic chickens. So it's a beautiful story to teach people about love. It's called The Angel and the Frog. Now, so their books are there for you. By the way, I do a recovery cruise from the East Coast. We are going from Florida, and I take a group. It's a conference, so you get educational units, as well as a 7 days in the Caribbean. It is for people in recovery, and you do it with me. 7 days, I'm with people. We have, of course, our functions on board ship, but it is for people. We have an attitude of gratitude every morning, and we have a great crowd of people from all over the United States. If you're a single person, and you don't normally like to go on cruise ships or trips on your own, you will not be alone.